going to have to pause because this is getting weird.
FX presents the Indoob podcast with your host, T. Sterling Watson.
Good morning, Indoobians. I am T. Sterling Watson, and this is the Indoob podcast. Thank you for stopping by and pressing play. How is everybody doing today? Great. If you hear some whimpering in the background, that is because Chief is joining me today. I've learned some lessons after reviewing all of the audio recordings that I've done so far in the past couple of weeks, because I have some special guests this episode, which I'll get into a little bit later. But I'm just giving a disclaimer now. There are some audio issues. The first clip you'll hear today is my dad telling stories about his experiences with the Black Panthers, or the Black Panther Party. Well, it's kind of same thing. So there was a lot of background noise I was trying to clean up, so you'll hear that. You'll also hear later on in the show returning guest co-host Kortney Hinton will be back. And also, what I'm trying to get to is the reoccurring theme of background noise that you'll be hearing. So the whimpering that you're hearing now is from none other than Chief. Later, when I'm talking with my dad, you'll hear some jingles going around a little bit. That is, once again, Chief. And even with the talking with Kortney, you will hear more jingles, and I think even a small little yelp of a bark, because he heard something outside, and he needed to tell me that he heard something outside. So, yes. I've learned my lesson to, first of all, take his collar off if I'm ever going to record anything because of those jingles. But I can't really control him from whimpering unless I just kick him out of the room. And then he gets sad and he starts sniffing at the door and wants to come back in and starts scratching at the door again. It's adorable but annoying when you're trying to record and you want some kind of, quiet. Right, Chief? Okay, now you just want to wag your tail at me because I'm acknowledging you. That's why, right? And this is great. I am talking to someone who will not talk back to me. And that is great for radio. That is great for podcasting. Do you know how great of a guest you are right now? You don't, because you're pawing at my leg. What do you want? You gonna use your words? You gonna speak? You gonna say something? What? Use your words. Yeah? Really? Oh. Okay. You're trying to introduce the next segment of the show? Yeah? Now, the next segment of the show actually is with my father. Telling his story about the Black Panther Party. And what came about this, or how this all started, is because we were watching on PBS the Black Panther Party documentary, which I do not remember the whole title. I know, we're getting to it, Chief. Slow down. And it brought back memories, so he wanted to share about that. Are you getting an attitude with me? What? What do you want? You have to use your words. I'm sorry, I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. I don't know. So yes, we're going to get into that now, and then I will be back after that. Hopefully Chief will lose his attitude. Yeah, I'm talking about you. He will lose his attitude, and we can carry on with the show and all that good stuff. Because there is good stuff, especially what's coming up next, and talking about disciplines and regrets with Kortney Hinton later on in the show. But for now, let's catch up with my dad. So we recently watched the PBS Black Panther documentary a couple nights ago, and that kind of brought you back to like when you first, I guess, maybe seen them or heard about them. You're living in New Haven as a small boy. You're not gonna say any words.
Yes, it did.
So, how old were you when you first heard about them? Or you said, I think you were telling me like your uncles or one of your uncles was
Yeah, I was 8 or 9 years old when the Black Panthers were in New Haven. There was something my uncles were involved in. One of my uncles were involved in that. Another one was involved in being a Muslim. And I guess the most memorable part is the riots, because we were literally a half a block away from the riots.
What riots were these?
Where the Black Panthers and the police department were fighting at night. So you can actually see people, in the streets fighting, but you couldn't make out the faces or anything because we were half a block down. You could see the crowds and you could see the flashing lights. So for me, it was, I couldn't see out of the downstairs window, so I went all the way upstairs to the attic, which was my cousin's room, and looked out the window to see the riot. I just wanted to see the riot. I wanted to see what was happening. And as I'm looking out the window and looking down, to my surprise, my grandmother snuck up behind me with a broom and began to beat me with a broom, saying that a straight bullet don't know anybody. And I'm trying to tell her that, I was just looking out the window. But apparently, at the time, I didn't realize that if somebody shoots a gun in my direction, my head is sticking out the window.
Right.
So, we weren't allowed to look out the window. The other part that was interesting was one of my uncles. There used to be a shoe store at the corner, right there on Dixon Avenue. And so they used to go at night, go in the back way, because that's right on our street, and go in and steal shoes. So the funny part about it is you go in there at night to steal shoes, all the shoes with the light, and there's no lights on. So when he got home, he had mixed match pair of shoes, and he hid them behind the TV set because he didn't want the police to come looking for him. And then he turned around the next night. He said he had to go back down. He had to go find the other pair of shoes so they match. Which again, my grandmother really, which was his mother, had a fit because he did that. But it was interesting times. There was a motorcycle gang that came to town. Some other groups came to town. And there was a big motorcycle happening downtown New Haven. And my mother would not let me go downtown because she was like, you're going to get in trouble when you go downtown. You don't want to get mixed up with that. But I wanted to see. I wanted to see the motorcycles. I wanted to see the action. Not that I wanted to get in the middle of it. I just wanted to see. I was nosy. But
Still are, but yeah.
They put me on restrictions, so I wasn't able to go down. Was not able to go see. I think Bobby Seale was in town, but again, I wasn't allowed to go down.
Even as you got older, you still couldn't go, or were you just lost interest?
When I got older, there was more Black Panthers. The Black Panthers you only heard about them for maybe a year. And then after that, they kind of died out, especially after the riots in New Haven. I think the police or whatever just wiped those guys out altogether. And one of my uncles went into the service, and like I said, the other one was a Black Panther. So there was a Muslim, so there was no more. You didn't hear any more about it. I was trying to remember if I even saw a Black Panther paper, but the only papers I really remember are the Muslim papers. They used to sell their papers too. So.
They're still going to do that now. See them in Hartford sometimes.
Yeah, they're still out there. They're still going strong with their papers.
But the documentary itself did bring back some memories. So.
The documentary itself brought back a lot of memories, and it also gave some closure to some things that I didn't know about. There was one person that I thought was missing off the documentary, Um, when I think of her name, I'll tell you what her name is, but right now I can't think of her name. Um, and they had her in a poster in a picture, and her mouth was always open because she was always talking.
Oh.
You know. So when I watched the documentary, I didn't hear any response or anything about her. I know her name, but I can't think of it right now. So maybe later on it'll come back to me.
So the name that my dad was trying to recall was actually Angela Davis, and Angela Davis was not a Black Panther Party member, but she did work with them a lot. She was a central leader of the civil rights movement at the time, so that's also why you would see her a lot, because she was always there. It was kind of funny that we discussed that even more in the role that women played within the party and with even just like the civil rights movement. And we just started discussing all of this and family and having like recorded history of these events and of people who lived through them, and how important it is to remember these things, and because we're not going to be around forever, especially like these people that have experienced it and can give us like real life accounts for what happened. And that's somewhat part of my mission and something I wanted to do, and just go around and talk to people just about their lives, not necessarily things that have to do with like black history, but if it does, that's even better. And that's actually something that I want to keep doing, because as important as Black History Month is, I don't I personally don't feel like it needs to just be celebrated in February, but all the time, all year. And even to some extent as every day, because that's something, one of my other I guess role models, broadcasting role models, Tom Joyner, I think he would have a Black History fact on his radio show every day. So to that extent, I want to have some kind of story or fact or some kind of something in each episode, just to to show that our culture is always like ever present, always changing, always like, I just want to remember the great things, or just things that have happened that shaped our history, our culture. And because I love my culture, I love my blackness. I have a T-shirt that proves it. But yeah, I just love it all. So it's great. And coming up next, though, is the regrets and discipline, or discipline and regrets conversation I have with Courtney Hinton. Now, there is something that we did not discuss, and it's kind of funny that we didn't, but we talked about all these different ways of having like financial freedom. And we didn't talk about that until like maybe a week or so after this was recorded. Not even a whole week. I think it was a couple days. But I talked about savings tips. But later on, her and I, we ended up talking about Dave Ramsey, and he's got a whole bunch of different ways to have financial freedom. And I am recommending that now because, like I said, we didn't talk about it at the time. So I'm saying that now. And look up 7 baby steps to, basically financial freedom. So I would definitely say look into that, but also, look into the stuff that we talk about in this episode. So I just want to throw that in there now. And think that's it. We're just gonna get right into it. So, well, right after this commercial break, because there's a commercial break coming up, and there's going to be some audio interference within that whole conversation, and that is my fault. I'm taking blame and responsibility because it was my microphone that was being all kinds of silly, and yeah, I expected better of myself. I should have known better. I should have done better, but I wasn't. It's okay. It's in the past. It's in the past. It's a regret I can live with, and that'll make more sense later. Kind of. Whatever. Roll the commercial.
Hey y'all, I'm Kortney Hinton of VerveHouseCollective.com. Verve House Collective is all about creatives, entrepreneurs, and those who want to live an awesome life full of intention. Again, that site is VerveHouseCollective.com, and we'd love to see ya.
The indoob. podcast.
So, welcome back to the Indoob, and once again, I've brought my very special guest, who is, I guess maybe I can put you as honorary guest co-host. I think I did that for the last time you're here, but Kortney Hinton, welcome back. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. How's it going with over there on your end
My end is okay. So,
of the world?
my end of the world. I'm back home this time. I'm not in Little Rock this time. I'm crying about it internally because I think you have much better weather than we're having. But and also I might sound a little nasally at this particular recording, only because I'm gonna blame the weather. It's very cold here, so. But yeah.
Aw.
But as this particular episode, should I stick true to my idea and keep the title the same, either like some kind of discipline versus regret? That is what we'll be discussing today. So I know you have some thoughts and I have some thoughts, so we'll just, kind of compare notes, if you will.
Sure.
Now, one of my ideas, I would say it's almost kind of late, but it's, I have this I don't want to call it a lifestyle, but maybe it could be a lifestyle, but a mantra, or, I rather discipline myself now than have regrets later. And a lot of those disciplines, they come when it comes to finances, which is something that I find with some of my peers, we don't always like discussing, but, it's an important thing in adulthood to, be financially fit and have, savings. Because you never know what can happen. I had an incident last year where, flat tires, they can just happen out of anywhere. That's just one example of it's good to have some money saved up for something like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's not just so much. I view the whole finance thing is not so much. Yes, we do have to, have that emergency fund going, but it's also if you want to make pretty big or even not so big financial moves in your life, it's great to have that money kind of at your disposal rather than using a credit card or something like that. So there are lots of great benefits to having that savings or even starting to think towards building a savings account at any age.
Versus racking up more debt that you'll have to pay back later. So
with interest.
Yes, with interest, which is a killer. Still dealing with that, but hey, that's, something that comes with learning, and hopefully we pass that down to the next generation to, hey, apply for those grants, not necessarily the loans, or, those can be good to help you with college or anything like that, but if you can get a grant, you don't have to pay that back. So
or a scholarship.
Or scholarships, right. But as for a couple savings challenges I've come across, one of them I'm kind of stealing or borrowing from a sister podcast of mine, actually called my podcast sisters, back when they were doing Catnaps and Cognac. So you can go back in their archives to find this, but it's the 52-week savings challenge. So every week, depending on that number of week, that's what you save for that week. When this episode comes out, it'll be week 9. So you have to put $9 in. You can either do it with cash, but I find it easier to do it like with an actual bank account. So that way it's even harder for me to touch it, because it could be a little tempting to have like this jar of cash there that keeps growing. But it's nice to see it though, because like, wow, this is money I'm saving. So with each week, you put in that number week. So with this being week 9, you would have $45 saved up so far. That is if you stay with it. By the end of the year, you should have $1,378. Maybe a little more.
That's awesome. I like that method because you can see I think a lot of people fall off on not just saving money, but any kind of challenge or thing like that because it's hard to see the results up front.
Right.
And something like this, it may not be super quick that it grows, but it kind of is pretty quick that it grows. You can actually see, the fruits of your labor, if you will.
Yeah.
And, I think that's important.
Yeah.
When you can see your progress.
And even seeing it, that will help you to continue to keep doing it. Like, and this is somewhat of a jumping a little off. Actually, no, not actually. It goes right along. Seeing the fruits of your labor by exercising, because that is
Mm-hmm.
another discipline, because you have to be disciplined to keep going to the gym or keep running,
Mm-hmm.
as you can attest to. Because, I mean, you're working out way more than I am, and you are seeing, or we are all seeing, the benefits of your labor, the fruits of your labor, and you're looking fit, you're looking healthy, and that only comes if you discipline yourself and you keep going at it.
Right. Right.
And
Exactly.
it's a beautiful thing, and same thing with the saving the money. You see it grow, and then that only encourages you to keep doing more of it. So
Mm-hmm.
it's it's
Exactly.
it's wonderful.
Exactly. And just like seeing your progress, is important. I think it's also very good to reward yourself when you meet a goal or when you stick to certain time frame. I mean, I think part of the reward is, increasing, like with your savings challenge, is to increase your savings account, but you know, do something else that's really good. That really encourages you to continue with your progress.
Right, right. I agree. And like, I guess going back to the fitness area, you can have a cheat day if you've been working out like consistently. Like, okay,
Mhm.
I can probably take a break here.
Mhm. Mhm.
But yeah. Right. Going back to finances for a second, I found another saving life hack, and this is found on a website called Budgets Are Sexy. So it's another little
I
transition
love
from
that.
being fit in all ways. Um, and one of them is 365 less things. It's another challenge where, actually, no, this isn't the finances one, I'm sorry, but it's under that, it's in this website where you basically throw away one thing every day that you don't need. I'm not sure if that means like a tissue that you've just used, but like something that you own that you no longer need.
Hmm.
So and for me, I would say that could be difficult. I haven't actually tried that one yet. As I'm looking around the room I'm in now, I was like, do I really need this DVD case or you know just random things I could just throw away? So that's another challenge that you could try.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um,
I
wh-
think that's a good one. I'm all about downsizing and decluttering, and I'm probably not the best spokesperson for it, but I'm all about, um, doing less or doing more with less,
mhm.
for sure.
Yes, because I think we might be in that kind of society where we do have a lot more things than we need. We're consumer whores. Some of us.
Mhm.
Um, I did forget one savings life hack, and this one is also it helps if you're a type that does like to shop a lot, and that could be I don't want to call it a weakness, but just something you struggle with and you're trying to get better, and you go out and you want to buy something that is not a need, but what you would do is you would just take that, whatever that thing is that you want,
Mhm.
um, whatever that same amount is, you save that instead of buying it.
Hmm.
Or what you could do is if you do buy it, then you also have to put again that same amount into savings. So you are
Mhm.
actually buying that same thing twice.
Ooh, I like
So
that.
this is
See, that
a
would get me.
because you do that.
Well, I'm not a big shopper, but I don't tend to think about my purchases or think them through. I mean, like I said, I don't just go crazy, but
Hmm.
it's a good way for me to think about my purchases and think about, okay, can I wait for this? Should I just say,
Hmm.
a better way to think about what I'm spending.
Right, right. And if anything, it will, again, depending on what those things are, it'll either keep you from even making that purchase
Mhm.
and saving your money in the long run. Because I think the key here is definitely that if you do buy it, because I may have misread it the way that I wrote it, but I think if you do make that purchase, you do have to put that same amount into savings. So
Right. Right.
so if you go, again, just you in the mall and you look at that Fry Daddy and like, oh wait, that fried Eddie's $50. I'm gonna really be spending $100. Then you
Mm.
don't buy anything at all, and you save $100, or you save that $50 you would have spent anyway. So,
Now, are you supposed is it just for items like that, or can it be for food too, or what are the stipulations?
um, it wasn't as specific as that, but I personally, I think I would apply it to things like food, because there are way too many times I go into a grocery store, which is probably my, weakness, and like, I did not intend to buy this pack of cookies, but they're on sale. So then that's when I would have to apply it for myself, and I would have to put, whatever that those cookies were. If I do purchase them, I'm going to have to put that in savings as well. So
Hmm.
it'll keep me from doing that. But I also have a really strict list that I've been actually doing for a couple of years. It's something my sister and I I think it was my sister and I. It's either my sister or my cousin, but we had come up with this policy of making a list before we enter the doors to that store. Like, we can make the list in the car, but by the
Mhm.
time we get in the store, if it's not on the list, we can't get it. So no
Mhm.
matter what's on sale, it's not allowed.
Mhm.
I do break this rule on occasion, because if I can't find whatever's on that list, then I might make that exception or
Yeah.
put in a substitute. But for the most part, if it's not on the list, I can't get it.
Right. That's a good idea.
So it's just other, little things to help financially that it has helped me. Um, Although the savings the life savings hack that I just shared, I haven't really put that one as a full effect yet. I've actually done it the last couple weeks, which is actually buying too many things. So, but hey, my savings is growing because I am doing the 52-week challenge. So
Mhm.
I at this point I actually have a little bit more than $45, because I still have some savings left from the last time I did it. I think 2 years ago. And yeah, it's nice to have a good chunk of money at the end of the year. Which, by the way, I did not touch that year for Christmas. I waited until later, and I think I bought myself a birthday present since it was in January. So just a couple ideas what you can do with that savings. But it is savings, so you either use it for however you know deem necessary, or emergency purposes. I think I bought a TV with mine. Um, Now, I say going back to health because we discussed it earlier, but I had a little technical malfunction. We talked about health and working out, and how working out is a discipline, and in the long run, it makes for a much healthier life and less regrets when it comes to, it's like, oh man, I wish I didn't sit on the couch all day and just waste away into nothing, go into some larger blob. But going out there, and that is to the gym or running or exercising, whatever that may be. Uh,
Absolutely.
eat,
Absolutely.
Eating
And just
healthier is another one. I'm sorry, go on.
yep. Well, just like every other type of discipline or choice that you make, it starts in your mind. You have to make the decision to to change something or to act on something or whatever. Like you said, you wanted to work on your savings, so you decided that, and then you figured out a plan of action, and now you're doing it, and you're already starting to see some great results from that.
Hmm.
I mean, just you know, taking that same principle to exercising. Now again, I'm no expert on it, but just from my growth in like working out and things like that, and trying to just overall be healthier, um after I made up my mind that okay, I'm gonna I sign up for my first 5K this year,
Woot.
which is in just a few weeks. So I decided, okay, I've been working out, but I need to do a little bit better as far as training for this thing because I've never done it. It's 5K is 3 miles. Um, I'm not used to running that distance, and I'm not
Mm,
used to running it. I've never really, at the time, I hadn't timed myself. I hadn't tried to beat my pace or anything like that. So I had to decide, okay, I'm gonna. First, it was to sign up before I had even started training.
mm.
Um, just to kind of lock in that commitment.
Right, right.
And then it was all about, okay, what's my goal here? Is it to win? Is it to do it in a certain time? Is it to be, top 10 or whatever? No, it's just to do it, just to finish it and complete something.
Hmm.
So even then, even though I'm not intending to try to break any world records or, place place or get any kind of accolades or trophies or whatever, or awards. I still knew that I needed to get out there and, um, train and condition my body and get into the habit of doing it every couple of days. And that's exactly what I did,
Hmm.
you know. But, the point is I had to start. I had to start.
And
I
you
had
made a
to make
plan.
right, made a plan, made a decision, acted on it.
Right, right.
Simple as that. Theory.
In theory, yes. But I really do want to drive home that point that you planned, you set out, and you prepared to do this, because you just can't go out. Oh, I'm gonna go run 3 miles without having, any knowledge or understanding or preparation to just go out and do that. I mean, not in a race. I mean, you can go ahead and just run 3 miles if you want to, just for the fun of it.
And I think you could even do it, run the risk of injuring yourself, or it won't be as enjoyable an experience because you haven't built up. You can't just, and people have just started from zero
Hmm.
to a race.
Right.
You can do that. But, if you have to also know yourself, if you know that your body is not conditioned for that, or you know,
Hmm.
if you're not even mentally prepared for it, you might not get the results that you're looking for.
Right. Right. I'd like to apologize also if you're hearing any yelping. That's Chief in the background. Um, People are outside. Um, Also, regarding health, I discussed food briefly, which also can be a discipline, is eating right, eating healthy, um, eating less fried foods, eating more fruits and vegetables and all natural things. That can be a discipline. I do not recall if I did mention it in the first recording about the Daniel fast, but that was a 3 week commitment and a discipline. There was a lot of things that we could not eat because it was not allowed in that particular fast. You have to listen to the last episode in order to get a better understanding what the Daniel fast is. But just to recap, it's mostly just fruits, vegetables, certain grains, and water and juice. But no sugar, no meat, no bread. And that was for 3 weeks. And that is a fast that Daniel did, and you can read about that in the Bible. But it was a very, very healthy fast. A lot of people that were on it, they found that they were losing weight. They had a lot of health issues that went away. And a lot of people, they are feeling they're going to stick with, they're going to reintroduce meat, but they're going to stick with doing more healthier things because of the long-term benefits that it will have.
Yeah.
And for me, that sounds like that's a lot less regrets that they'll have later on.
Mhm. Absolutely.
And even with regrets, I had tried explaining this a little earlier, but again, due to technical malfunctions, I have a mantra, if you will, called, well, basically, I call it the 5 5s. It's, will I regret this? 5 minutes from now, 5 days from now, 5 weeks from now, or 5 months from now, 5 years from now. This is much quicker in my mind than it is to say it out loud. That's really what my 5 5s is really all about, is just thinking more critically, so I don't have regrets. Or a lot of times I think back on missed opportunities, and I don't want to have missed opportunities. So
Mhm.
that's really the basis of where my 5 5s come from. It's, for me, the opposite of where do you see yourself in 5 years? Because that's a question a lot of times I was asked in school. A lot of job interviews asked that question. It's a question I personally hate because I have no idea where I'm going to see myself in 5 years. I sometimes don't even know where I'm going to be in 5 months.
So how do you introduce this? Well, I guess you kind of said it. You use this type of thinking to just think more critically rather than to make, lifelong decisions, not necessarily making lifelong lifelong decisions, but how do you justify the 555, since it is a bit more difficult to think that far in the future sometimes?
A lot of for me, it also depends on the situation, or the whatever it is that I'm considering. If it is something like a job, will I see myself there in 5 years? More than
Mhm.
likely, yeah. I can deal with that. Um, or if it's some kind of appliance, I know I keep going back to the Fry Daddy, but that is something I don't think I would regret if I was no longer using it 5 years from now, because maybe I'd be onto something else,
Mhm.
or something. It's a regret I can live with, and that is something I also kind of come down to is like, okay, this is a regret I can live with. I'll go ahead and eat this fatty food or whatever it is because it's just this one time. It's just this one Pop Tart. I can deal with that. I'll be fine.
Mhm.
Rather than eating Pop Tarts every day, then I'm really just lying to myself because I'm just like, I can't keep doing this. It's not right.
Mm.
So yeah, there's it that critical thinking does come in handy when it comes to more real life kind of situations.
Mhm.
Um, but it really came from missed opportunities, because there were times when, it actually even happened. Someone asked me, "Hey, would you like to go skydiving?" This happened actually like 2 years ago, and I this is one of those times I could really miss an opportunity. I went through the list as quickly as I could, thinking back like 5 years from now, if I can look back at this point and say, "Wow, I really missed my chance to go skydiving." Long story short, the skydiving thing kind of fell through, never happened. But I said yes, I was willing to go.
Mhm.
That is like a rare opportunity, a rare thing to just present itself, and I felt like this could be amazing. I mean, the stories I could tell, but
Yeah.
but it didn't happen. So and if the opportunity came up again, whether I presented it or I was asked, then I would go for it,
Mhm.
because
Good.
I want to enjoy life, and that is a theme of, or at least for this year, is to live and to say yes to things, like Jim Carrey in his movie Say Yes.
Mhm. I don't think I have an issue with not saying yes to things that are good opportunities for me. I think I have the opposite effect of saying yes to too much.
Mm,
Um, but I am starting to really be more mindful of what I agree to and what I choose to spend my time on and my energy on.
hmm
And because I also think that that's important. One thing that I try to really incorporate into every day is just saying yes to life and saying yes to the things that really bring me happiness and help the people around me and
hmm
bring me closer to the goals that I want to do ultimately.
mm.
Um, so yeah.
And circling back to regrets, I would say that we all kind of just have them just by living on Earth and having to make decisions and choices every day.
Mhm.
Um, how do you deal with regrets? Like once you find, I was like, oh, I should have done that and I didn't.
Well, like you said, regrets are just a part of life. And with every choice that we make, there is a consequence, whether that's a good consequence, something in our favor or a bad one.
hmm
So, I do try to take that to account when I'm, making decisions and just trying to wade through life. Um, I don't want to because I felt that pain of regret, which is very different than the pain of discipline.
Mm,
Um,
right.
it's a very different experience. It's a very different sensation, I guess. Um, so dealing with regret, I try I try to avoid regret because it's painful,
hmm
and I feel like it's something that I felt myself. Maybe I guess a better way to say it is I have deprived myself of something potentially really good because of my actions or my choices. So that's not really answering your question. I know. But
It is a weird kind of, well, not a weird thing, but it's something that it's difficult to avoid sometimes.
yeah, sometimes you just can't avoid it, and it's just something that you have to experience as a human on Earth
Hmm.
or something thereof. And regret sets in. I just think, okay, well, what could I have done differently in that situation? If it presents itself to me again, what would I do differently?
Right.
What did I learn from this situation? Um, how can I avoid this pain or this um, experience? Well, not this experience, but what can I do differently?
So it
Um,
becomes a teaching moment for you.
mhm. I thought Siri is talking to me. She thought I was talking to her, and I was not.
Yes, that's Siri. That can get you. But yeah, it can be. You can really use that regret feeling. Again, it doesn't happen when you're in that feeling, but
Right.
later on, you can think about, okay, how can I learn from this? This can be a teaching moment. It is just part of life, and I think by having some of these disciplines, you're able to. I'm trying to bring disciplines back into having less regrets, but it depends on what those regrets are, because life throws a whole bunch of things at you that even the most disciplined person might not necessarily be able to make the better choice out of two bad choices that they have for that situation.
Well, I mean, life tends to do that. No matter how much you prepare
Hmm.
or think you have it all together, life tends to kind of throw you a curveball and say, "Hi, psych, you thought you had this." And I don't, and I don't mean that in a cynical way, but that's just how life is. That's just how it is.
Hmm.
Um, but I mean, having the tools and the mindset of, you know, thinking about things in a critical way and, thinking about, okay, what do I want? How do I get there? What's going to be my move if, disaster strikes or whatever, kind of like with
Hmm.
your savings fund. If say you wanted to use that money, that was your emergency fund for,
Right.
emergencies, basically preparing for, I don't want to say the worst, but you're preparing for the curveballs that life tends to throw.
Hmm.
And by having that money set aside specifically for emergencies, you're more prepared than someone who does not have that account at their fingertips,
Right. Right.
So I just think, you know, being prepared and being ready for the unpreparable
Hmm.
is probably our best one of our best, defenses against stuff like that. And you
Defense
know
against life. Yes.
yeah, because it's out to get us.
It is. Life is out to get us. So is
So
space. So is nature. So it's good to be
mm,
prepared, and
mm,
and make a plan, save, but also live, and
yeah,
enjoy life, because
life is good.
life
Life
is
is
good.
good.
It might flip on you, but at least you're prepared for it when it does. So and
Exactly.
yeah, exactly. So I think on that note, because hopefully we turn it around to bring some positivity to it. We can.
I'm sorry to bring down the
Oh,
atmosphere.
I was doing it as well because I was uh, wrongfully said that we should wallow in regret, but that's not what I meant. Um, I do fully believe we should live our life to the fullest, because we do have only this life. And I'm not going to say the phrase that what began in 2014. Yeah, we'll just move on. So yeah, enjoy your life, and once again, always be sure to check out Verve House Collective, which is all about living life to the fullest in abundance. Sorry, that is the
Hmm.
word. So
Yes, and living life with intention.
intention, that is the other word. And can't live without intention unless you make a plan. So I really wanted to strive that. So yes, thank you once again, Kortney,
Yep.
for joining me.
Yes, thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure as always.
as always.
Hello, Indubians. I'm Laura, host of Loudavision, the podcast for visionaries, artists, and creatives. On my podcast, I'm interviewing fellow artists trying to figure out how we can bring our creative vision to life without compromising our values, crushing our soul, and dying poor. Yep, that explains it. You can listen to the Loudavision podcast on laurameoli.com and connect with me on Twitter at Loudavision.
So I'd like to thank you all for, again, just putting up with all the audio interruptions and defects and all the stuff that was happening within the show. Hey, it happens, and I try to fix it. I mean, we saw what happened with Adele and her sound. It wasn't actually the sound guy. A microphone in the piano fell in the piano, so that is why she had that issue. Not that I meant to bring that up now, because I mean there's a whole bunch of stuff that happened in the Grammys I wanted to talk about, but we're not going to get into that right now. I also wanted to talk about Deadpool, which was awesome, but again, not going to talk about that now. Hopefully I'll be able to write a review very soon, even though it's going to be late, because I mean it came out weeks ago. I will write a review about that. A couple other notes I wanted to throw out there really quickly. The calendar I was looking at for the 52-week review said that this week, where this episode comes out, would be week 9, when actually it's week 8. Based on the Google calendar. I prefer using Google calendars because Google is, I accept that to take over, my digital life. Anyway, so this is week 8. So next week would be 45. What I'm going to attempt to do is either before or sometime during each episode, I will let you know what week it is in case you are doing the savings challenge and you would like to keep up with it, and how much money you should be having or saving at that point. But other than that, I believe that is all. I don't know as of yet, but we are in the process of submitting this podcast to be on Stitcher, finally. And besides that, 3SFX Productions is expanding. Another podcast has been added to our roster and within the Indoob network, and you can look out for This Is Your Season, that podcast. You actually hear me again in that, and pretty soon one of those commercials will be added into this show, so you can find out about it. And I will talk more about that next time. And actually, yeah, you'll hear my dad a lot more if you subscribe to that podcast, which at this point I think might only come out twice a month. I don't know yet. It's still brand new. And with all that said, please check out the brand new website, gracemercyministries.com. You can read all about my church and all the stuff that we do there. So check that out. Indoob.com hasn't changed much, but, go there too, because, Indoob everything. So, I think with all that said, it's time to wrap up, because it's been a long day, been a long week, and a good week, very productive. But I'm ready to call it a night, or call it a podcast. So with all that said, remember, if the world didn't suck, we'd all fall off. Podcast was recorded on planet Earth and is an extension of the Indoob blog found at indoob.com. You can subscribe and find more episodes on iTunes and indoob.podbean.com. You can also follow Master Sterling on Twitter at Indoob. I am not allowed. This is Bilford signing off, and this has been another 3SFX production.
Use your words, Chief. Good boy.